Testing, one, two, three. Testing, one, two, three. Yes, it works. Okay, we start with the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, power, glory, yours now and forever. In your Son, our Lord Jesus, our King, our Savior. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So today, I'm going to talk to you a bit about a lot of things, really. But I heard an interesting thing on In Touch's channel, which is something, believe it or not, I was talking about 3 months ago. And I'm going to turn to it. So, this is the John 8:12. Then Jesus spoke to them again, saying, I am the light of the world. He who follows me shall not walk in darkness, but have the light of life. Now, we get that, and also in John 1:12, but as many received him, to them he gave the right to become children of God, to those who believe in his name. Now, we see that all around us, there are people who are looking to fill the hole in their heart, the hole in their being, which is only one place to be filled with, and that's God. Okay. God wants an intimate relationship with you. All right. He wants you to come to him for everything. What escapes most people, okay, and I'm not saying this is wrong. Jesus, yes, he's our salvation. Jesus, yes, is our savior. Jesus is all these things. But the big thing that Jesus did for us is to bridge that huge gap, cleanse us, so that instead of Moses not being able to even look at God, to even shed his eyes upon him, like this, bowing, yield, oh, No. What Jesus does for us is that he allows us, me, you, all of us, to be brothers and sisters. But moreover, he is going to allow me to hug him after I finish groveling at his feet or whatever. I'm going to hug him. But that hug is more, it's going on now because I'm never alone. I always have him because I know he's always there listening. And on occasion, he talks to me. And we witnessed that in many situations here on this channel, as well as he told me his son, Rick Riley, was having a problem. And we did a fundraiser for that. And he was praying, his wife was praying. So it's very important that you take a lot of your problems. Now that doesn't mean you sit on your behind. Oh, I'm gonna just sit and watch the March Madness, and God will take care of everything. He wants you to do the best you can do every day. All right. I'm lucky I got this on the air. There's been tremendous amounts of attacks on my email, on my servers, on my internet connections. On They don't want you to hear what I'm going to say today. They can't stop this. They can't stop Jesus. Jesus is your sword, is your it's the blood of him that he spilled at Calvary that's cleansing everybody who wants it. That's how much God loves us. Okay. But more than that, it makes him it brings him to be part of your life to where that you literally do not fear. You walk without fear. And because you know he's got it covered. Yes, you respect. Do I respect things? I'm a shooter. I love. Okay, I love skeet shooting, sporting clays, all that kind of stuff. I especially love shotgun stuff because it's always different. The clays it's like you get outside. It's hard. I even have special loads for each type of station and stuff. It's great. It's a very extremely challenging sport. Okay. Um, I love the act of fishing, the piece of it, just calming yourself to a point to where that you can just hear everything, you can feel everything. You're at one. It's really great, and it allows you to pray. It allows you to contemplate what you've done, what you're going to do. It gives you that special time of silence, and yet you're connected with everything that's around you. I used to. Rick says he fears bears. He doesn't want them near his bees. Up at my house in Vermont, there was a bear called Matilda. I called her Matilda. Nobody called her that, but her den is about 200 yards from my front door, literally. And she used to always because I have a babbling brook that runs down into a first pond and then goes from there to another huge pond. She used to always walk young to the first pond, and the first pond had a beaver a mound in it. And anyway, she used to. Uh, I'd be out there walking my dog and stuff, and I always would take the flashlight, put it up to my eyeball, and you could see the eyes. The two green eyes, and then the other ones from the cubs on a different level. And sometimes in the summertime, I would leave my vestibule open, and she would just come walking in, and she'd be literally on the other side of the screen door with her head looking at me. And my dog at the time was Trip, and my wife used to call him Frady. He used to run into the kitchen in front of his bowls and kind of bark and wail, and you know, but he was afraid. I wasn't afraid of this bear. I wasn't. Um, I just didn't. I wasn't. She seemed to know that I didn't have any ill mind. Now her mate or her male, um, I wasn't so much afraid as respectful of him because he was a good sized bear, and he did not. He was no. The male that's there now, I call him Yogi because he raids this person up there who eats a lot of takeout pizza, and I find pizza boxes strewn all over the woods up on the mountain when I'm walking with the dog. So this bear, and he's smart. This bear is really smart. He goes right over to the latch and undoes the latch, or he pulls the board off, the one board, and gets into the pizza, and it takes it up. You know, um, it's I've done some walking videos where I showed you this, but no, I I'm really talking about, as my father talked about. He talked about, in order for you to truly live this life to the fullest, you have to first learn how to die, which means you must be born again. You must be saved. You must understand and have a relationship with God so that you can do the best you can and move on. But so, that's very important. Jesus is incredibly important because his blood represents the huge sacrifice that God did for us. Now, this is controversial, but it's the truth. Because yes, Jesus succeeded. He succeeded in beating Satan on that cross. Okay. But the key is that he might have failed. Okay. Which means he didn't, but he could have. The opportunity of temptation, the opportunity, all these things were in front of him. Okay. And he did not do them. If he was God incarnate walking, which means, like Star Trek Q or something like this, then his sacrifice would have meant nothing because it wouldn't have been a sacrifice. It would have meant that he wasn't tempted. It meant he wasn't hungry. All these things, and we see that Satan came to him when he was fasting, when he was vulnerable. And I had a conversation with Rick about this, and it's not biblical, but it's a theory that he did that on purpose, so that Satan would see as we were, purple, and be so enraged that he would allow man to kill Jesus, which is very important because if Jesus wasn't sacrificed, then he couldn't conquer Satan on the cross. can save us. If I was Satan, I would make sure that absolutely not even a hair on Jesus' head would have came harm to him. I would have done everything. You gotta understand this is a battle here. But you see, there's a built-in circuit breaker in rage and in stupidity, and that's evil. I mean, I get back to the time of the angels, trying to Lucifer trying to overthrow God. I mean, what kind of stupidity and insanity is that? You just He's the creator of everything, and you're going to. It's so ludicrous. So, as obviously the green-eyed monster has this unbelievable default of insanity, stupidity. And we get that into there are some people out there like X22 Dave who thinks that this is all President Trump's plan. That a plan to get all the deep state players, expose them, and but well, I put it to you, Dave. Then why didn't he do this when he was in office when he actually had power? Why didn't he do this after the first election, 2016 election? Why didn't he expose all these people then? Why did he not show tremendous, I would have tremendous evidence, tremendous record keeping on the next election to show all the kind of abuses that were going on then, which were told us that he was doing. So I just think that I don't blame Trump. I I blame the fact that Trump was surrounded by people he did trust who were totally corrupted. I never in my life thought that Mattis, Kelly, his eldest son, I mean, all these people would turn on him and essentially betray him. And yeah, and that's just the ones we know about. So the reality is that I don't think Trump could take a piss without the only person literally he could trust in the White House was his daughter, his youngest son, and his wife. Uh, that's it. That's not enough. That's not enough. And I think that once I have no idea when he came to the recollection, but it probably was early on. Then didn't he didn't want to take he didn't want to he's like an older brother to John, and he didn't want to be the instrument of John's death. Um, and I can't make judgment on that because I'm not privy to all the facts and information that was there. I can only say this: um, if I was John, I would have taken that off of my so-called foster brother, and I would have taken it upon myself to immediately become a shield and deflect and realize that there was no way that they could harm him after he's exposed and after, of course, the DNA and everything else was checked. And I think you'd find specifically the French press would be very interested in everything he would say. And it would have been different. I really believe it would have been different. It would have been different. I think that I think the president read what we had to say in our letter that we signed, but didn't fully contemplate and understand that there is a limit to the timing. There's a limit to the grace. There's a limit. We don't have any of this crap time. We just don't. Oh, I think they were. I think the blackmailing, the extortion. I don't know if Rick, you know this, but Hugh Hefner was actually working for the CIA. Others were working for the CIA. Their main thing on their operation, um, it's like a mockingbird kind of thing, but what it is to get the skeletons in the closet on everybody, or to make an incident available to which that again they can do blackmail, they can do extortion, so that in the future they would hold this over that person's head and thus control them. I mean, think about it. At the end of World War II, I mean, you have a failed haberdasher in Truman, and yet you have Bradley, Eisenhower, MacArthur, Nimitz. I mean, I'm forgetting a whole bunch of other generals, but they're all coming to him saying, "Look, this Stalin guy is freaking nuts, and it's going to be a problem. And the genie's out of the bottle. We need to take over the whole world while they're on their knees. We need to do this, and then it'll never happen again. And the freedom will reign." And blah, 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 blah. But you see, you had these. Essentially, they were Nazis. There's no question. In belief, tyrannical regimes, power corruption, used to their block budget spies and doing all kinds of unspeakable things and not being reported because they so-called made it a black ops, and they don't want that to end. So they have this skeleton over Truman. They pull it, and in less than 4.5 years, we're in a conflict in Korea and a proxy war. So much for this BS that Biden and everybody else is trying to give you why we can't send them jets or we can't send them this in the Ukraine or anything else. We should have been doing this way as soon as Russia started moving, and well, we saw that with Crimea. We should have been moving all kinds of systems and stuff into the Ukraine. It is our obligation. Believe it or not, who made the obligation? Who signed that obligation? Clinton. Clinton signed it by having the Ukraine give up their nuclear weapons because they didn't want to do that. They did not want to give up their nuclear weapons. Because if you look at the past history, you'll see that millions and millions of Ukrainians have been killed in all kinds of wars in the past by Russians, czars, all kinds of things. I mean, it's pretty substantial, and they've done it. I mean, even the Beatles talked about it in the song "Back to the USSR." So, because all Russian leaders realize how vulnerable that patch of land is to invasion from the West, and also it's some of the only, the Black Sea ports and stuff like that. Um, and it's because of that regime, because of the Russian regime, there's a tremendous amount of KGB people who were left out in the lurch in 91. And what did they do? They resorted to crime, organized crime, because that's what they didn't know anything constructive. What do they know? They know how to spy and kill people, threaten people. I mean, that's what they know as a trade. So they didn't stop it. They just continued it and used their connections more so to do even more in the crime syndicate, and that spread over here. Um, it still exists here, uh, and this administration as the Obama Biden administration, they've made it tremendously worse. It's like they're for criminals, just like this justice who anybody who would be up for that type of thing, no matter what race they are, has a lawsuit because of the racist and sexist way that Biden put a criteria filter on them. And I put it to you, if they if Biden said, "Well, I'm only picking a white male person," would all the ACLU and everybody go absolutely nuts? What's the difference? I mean, it'd be fine if they picked her out of a lot of random people and then she's judged on her merits, which are suspect with a lot of things, specifically in the P area. I can't say the word. Um, yeah, we invited them in with Operation Paperclip, Rick Riley. Rick Riley writes, well, many of the N came to us at the end of World War II. Um, yeah, the Operation Paperclip, Oppenheimer, Einstein, all that lot. Einstein came over way earlier, but yeah, like with anything, there's a bat maybe three or four players in the batch of 50 scientists and physicists were, yeah. And also you had von Braun, who was basically the head of their V2 project, and that was the whole thing about these. So and who was winning this whole time between the Cold War lunacy race between Russia and I mean USSR and us? Who was winning? The Rockefellers are winning. The Rothschilds are winning. The bankers are winning. They discovered that war is extremely profitable for their business and that they could put whole countries into debt, tremendous debt with war. Okay. And they continue to do that. And and anybody who tried to speak out against them, like Eisenhower tried to do, and then Kennedy tried to do, Kennedy threw them out of his White House. And what did they do? Well, they 3 months later they started plotting, and then they executed them. No ifs, ands, or buts. George Bush 41 was there, absolute proof, and that was the first, well, second, because they did it to Lincoln. Lincoln was assassinated by the same people. Charlie, Oscar, Utah, Paul. And they did the same thing in this specific election that we had last. Now, everybody was saying that, oh no, it's fake, and now you see that they were lying. Okay, and all these people should be ignored. They're now changing their stories. But they're still saying, "Oh, it was all a plan, all a plan." Really, you think that Trump is the biggest sob to which that he would sit by and see? I don't care. At least 10,000, 15,000 Russian soldiers die, and maybe the same in civilians and Ukrainian soldiers and all this stuff, and the harm it's causing throughout the world and everything else. I mean, and people are buying this crap. Nobody, okay, who's a Christian wants war and death. Okay. And if you listen to some of these transmissions from these boys, these Russian boys, who are just, again following orders. It's horrible. They're calling up to their mothers and stuff like this, and they don't want to be there. And a few squads of whatever are causing really all the bad acts. But the conscripts and everybody else, I mean, they really don't have a choice. If they don't do what they're told, this is what you have. Um, and a lot of them are shooting themselves, trying to get injured. One guy took his own vehicle, rode over his colonel. Uh, Now, does that mean that Russia is not holding back? I think they are. I think they're holding back their Su 27s. I think they're holding back a lot of their primo stuff. Um, I'm not saying that Putin wasn't told by his generals that this would be a cakewalk and it'd be over in a week. I'm sure they told him that because now those same tanks can't travel on land. They'll get stuck because now it's getting into mud season, and so there was a limited window you could use that stuff. Do you think Russia wanted? Do you think this was Putin's plan to have one of his ships with all his stuff blow up and his other one get damaged? Come on, people. Okay. Now, there is a certain aspect to it where, the art of war, make your opponents think that you're weak. But still, what you have to really understand is that these Ukrainian people and the history of them, and I know these people, I know what they're like, and they're very hardy people. There's a lot of Christians there, and but the big thing is to think how you'd behave. They're trying to take your home, and this is all you know. Your father and your mother and everybody, and they're trying to take it from you. They're trying to take 35, 40 years worth of your life and work. They're trying to, well, they've done it. And you're fighting like a tick dug into a dog. I mean, you got nothing to lose because you just lost it. And those are the most dangerous type of you need 15, 20 times to one ratio of people of soldiers to every single combatant that's there because they have nothing to lose. In some respects, think about it. Even if you die, you're comforted in some respects. But the reality is that this was foretold back when Obama made those deals, and that's where all the corruption came. The corruption came when Obama and Biden were in the White House, and they made all these wonderful deals. They didn't come with Trump. Trump was trying to clean up the country. That's why they impeached him over the phone call. And nobody's perfect, but this comic, this leader, I mean, he's doing everything he can, but the reality is it doesn't matter. You have to look at all the stuff that's out there, not just this broadcast by fraction, everywhere. There's a lot of stuff all over the place. And you can see that these bankers, they're trying to pull the strings to get us involved in a nuclear war, get NATO involved. Because you see, when you have a crisis, then they can take advantage of that and they can shove anything down your throat. Martial law, food shortages, gas shortages, massive lines, desperation, hunger. When you're hungry and your kids are really hungry, It's amazing how much you'll compromise your liberty for so-called safety. And as Ben Franklin says, you can't because you don't have either if you do. So you got to know that Oscar Bravo Alpha Mike Alpha was a Charlie Indiana Alpha creation from the start. And the Charlie Indiana Alpha creation of that system as a as an agency that specifically, and they now have controls into the Foxtrot Bravo Indiana and others by the people that started this whole thing back in 1903. And that's what's really running this thing. That's what's really going on. So it's really important to understand what the truth it really is. Um, do I know if Trump is actually going to run for president again? I actually am going to tell you something, and you're not going to like it. But if he doesn't run with somebody who can win vice presidency and win the presidency afterwards, and who I like, I mean that Naomi person, Ron DeSantis, something like that. Okay, but he's a lightning rod. The media and everybody has made him such a lightning rod for hate that no matter how fantastic of a president he was and a person he was, he's so it's true. Trump derangement syndrome is a real thing. I'm not kidding. So the reality is that I'd rather see somebody like a Ron DeSantis uh, with a vice president of that Indian. I mean, Cherokee Indian. She's governor of South Dakota, something like that. Anybody who she's extremely qualified, and he's extremely. DeSantis has shown us how great of a governor he's done for Florida, um, and what he could do for the country. But the main thing is that he's probably one of the only people, and it's never reported, who's actually addressed hardening the electrical grid for Florida because he sees what's going on. And it's only going to get worse. So it won't, a lot of these things will not matter if this planet gets hit with a Carrington event. They won't matter. Whatever is going on in Ukraine will not matter. Whatever's going on here, and it won't matter because we will be put back into literally the 18th century, just like that, a snap of our fingers. Some of us who've had prepared won't, but most, I would say 98% back. Well, the thing is that even if you broke up the Russia into many states, let's just say Putin loses and we win, and you're going to break. You think now that these states that they've watched Ukraine are going to give up all their nukes? And you don't think that there's many hidden ex KGBs and other tyrannical tyrants who could put on this great act that they're suave and whatever, but yet they're really, you know, Trudeau's in secret? I mean, you want to see tyranny? Look at what happened in Canada. I mean but you have more nuclear devices technically in Russia than anywhere else in the world, and then you're forgetting China. I mean, this entire thing is working in China's benefit. If you want to know who's really benefiting at all this stuff, it's China in every way, shape, and form. Every way, shape, and form they're benefiting, and you know what the Taiwanese people, but you don't seem to understand that place, that little island, is Silicon Valley. And if you don't think chips are integrated and are important in our lives, they're in everything. They're in your toaster, they're in your refrigerator, they're in your car, everywhere. And 90, I don't know, 5% of them are made in Taiwan. Yeah. And it takes years to develop plants and start manufacturing here. You're going to say, why? Well, because it takes about a year and a half to make a room clean enough. You have to filter the room that long to make it clean enough to be able to start producing chips. Because the chips that we're producing use 5 nanometer technology. Now we should have gone with Dr. Wan, gotten off this end of the tracks when, as soon as in 1987, when IBM hit the quantum tunneling effect, then sort of with limits in the circuitry, because they got down to a p orbital, okay, which means they couldn't get really any smaller, and then you had quantum problems where you couldn't really isolate an electron and stuff like this. And so what they started doing was more parallel stuff, wrist chips, everything else. And that there's a limitation to that as well. Okay. I mean, a nanosecond is basically this. If you take your fingers and you make an L, then the hypotenuse from here to here is how long it takes an electron to travel 1 nanosecond. Okay. So you picture this a wire. A picosecond is if you took that same wire and then you put it into a pepper grinder and you ground little specks of pepper. Each one of those little grinds, about that big, would be a picosecond. So it's extremely hard, and that's why you haven't seen any huge breakthroughs in speed to make circuits go any faster than they're going. Okay. Now you say, oh, well, we have quantum computers. Okay. Well, let me explain to you about the quantum computers. They have to basically hover a little bit, a fraction above absolute zero. Okay. That means that they have to be isolated, put in cabinets, shielded. They have to be specially cooled with liquid helium. They can't have any access to anything. And then a super bit, you can only read it once. Okay. Can't do anything with it again. The photon computer that was first invented as a prototype in 1987, um, the modification that I've made to it, which is I love, of course, the patent right on it, but the modification I made to it was indices, um, entanglements, and teleportation. Now, by doing that, you're not only using the color subtraction, addition, things like this, but you're also using the quantum state and the entanglements of light, to which that it erases time. For experimental and explanation, say you have four um, photons, and we're going to label them A, B, C, and D. These each pairs are entangled, okay, which means whatever you do to one happens to the other. Okay. Now, that entanglement can be anywhere, which means I can take this, a box of A and C, have it here, and I can take the box of B and D, and I could have it on Mars, for example. And it could be four, no matter what photons, it doesn't matter. Okay. But the point is that number one, okay, the photons are unique. Nobody can interfere with the communication. take this. Yeah. Um, what this means is two things. Number one, it means you have instantaneous communication. It means every single node of the computer from now until whenever is part of the actual original computer and power of the computer. Okay. And um, this was all created, God. Okay. Um, some of my best work, my SA3 process, for example, was really discovering. I invented that, or you could say I discovered it, invented it. I was on the John, and there was a fly in the bathroom, and I was trying to kill the fly, and I couldn't do it. And I'm saying to myself, he has to be doing all this incredible math and instantaneous acceleration formulas and whatnot, and he only has a couple of ganglia. How how could he possibly be doing this? And then I realized that it's the heart of how we're doing it. And the methodology is so beautifully elegant and simple. And it's just simple arithmetic, really simple stuff. But because it's done in spheres, I mean, it's once I saw that, it's it's so elegant that only our creator can do it. It it's perfect. It's and this math of light is so it's just so beautiful. It's so beautifully perfect. And it's written that you will see God's hand if you look for it around us. And as I've become more and more understanding of science, understanding of different things that I work on, I see his hand more and more in everything. More. It's incredible. Absolutely incredible. I mean, if you just look at the way photosynthesis works in a tree, it's amazing. Yep. Yeah, the thing that um I'm really suspect on this as far and you could see that, is that the Iranian deal is going to give all this radioactive material to Russia. Um and a lot of people don't realize that they already have a device or devices. What they don't have is the way to deliver these devices. So, North Korea, which was a proxy for the Charlie Indiana Alpha there, he's again doing his thing. Japan is freaking out because if you look at where Japan is, yeah, as Japan, it's the same reason why, if you look at World War II, why Japan did what it did. And the same logic applies to why Putin wants all those Baltic states again. Um, God gave us his son to have him in our lives. No ifs, ands, or buts. That's the biggest thing that I've ever learned in my life was that he not only knows everything, but it's there for learning and for testing. Now, do I know what this test is? Um, Not really, not fully complete, but I do know that the information that's being presented to me and what I do with it and assess with it and how is I'm being evaluated. What am I being evaluated for? I have no idea. That's above my pay grade. Wild Willie. Um, well, you're right and wrong in what you're saying. Okay, there's good players and bad players. The corruption is is consistent. I'm gonna lay something on you that I know. Okay, the Kilo Golf Bravo is the same as the Charlie Indiana Alpha, and I my this is my opinion. I think that they have been working together forever, and it's conducive for them to do so because both of their budgets, whatever. Now, does that mean all of them on a nitty gritty? No, no. I'm talking about the higher ups and whatnot. As far as the dollar, it, there was no more after Nixon got off the gold standard. Basically, the petrodollar, and everybody's getting out of the petrodollar. So Biden basically finished what Obama started. Obama wanted us out of the petrodollar, and there's SDRs between China, Saudi Arabia, Iran. There's SDRs from other countries to Saudi Arabia. That's why they're not pumping any more oil. The reason why they're not pumping more oil is because back in the 70s they realized that they didn't have any more oil and they was going to run out in 35 years, just in Saudi Arabia specifically. So they needed to do something to double the value and then quadruple. They did the same thing each time. They made the value double. Hello? They made the value double. They made the value um, quadruple. These people, what you fail to understand, and I can't drive it to you enough, who is making the money on energy? You would say, okay, it's the people who pull it out of the ground and derive it. Yeah, they're making money, but they're not making nearly as much money as the countries who are taxing it. Why? All of them are taxing the energy to one state or another. But the thing is, what are they doing for those taxes? I mean, let's look at Exxon. Everybody's like Exxon. Well, they have to get the oil out of the ground, which means they got to pay for it all the way. They have to hire the people. They got to hire the expensive rigs. All these, and usually they're loans, and they have to pump it. Then they have to get it out. They have to refine it. All the way they're paying taxes on it, all the way they're transporting it, and then they have to get it to you, the consumer, so that you pump it into your car. It's extremely expensive. And because it's so expensive, the people at the top are making trillions and trillions of dollars on these taxes and skimming it all the way. Okay. It's the same thing with cell phones. Okay. I mean, here, this phone, $4 every single month for this phone, $4 minimally. It's an FCC tax. You look at your bill, you'll see it. Okay. Not to mention there's other taxes. What do they do for this? They're telling you you have to pay that because you're renting the airways. You're, well, that's yes and no. Okay. I have a ham license or radio telephone operating license. Okay. Does that mean I can't use my radio? I have to pay them? No. I took a test. I paid my fee. It was 1971. I can't tell you how many times. uh, uh, Yeah, but yet they're making me pay for this every single month. And who's getting this money? Where's it going? I mean, you think about how many phones and devices, tablets and whatnot that are paying this fee every single month. What does the FCC do with all that money? Where does it go? And yet we have a $30 trillion deficit. I mean, all these gas taxes and fuel taxes are supposed to pay for all of our highway projects. And yet our roads are in tremendous disrepair, bridges, everything else. So where did all this money go? Where did all this money that they sold us in 83, 84, I think, and at least in New York State, they legalized lotteries and other kinds of things, right? And they said, oh, it's going to go for the kids. Your school taxes are going to go to nil. Your kids are going to have portable computers, blah, 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 blah. Same thing they said with casinos and off-track betting and yeah, Mega Millions and all these kind of things. You name it, they have it, and it's in every single store known to whatever. And just like tobacco, okay, the store owners only get um, they only get half of the value of the thing. I think on the dollar tickets they only make 10 cents or something like that. Where does all this money go? It certainly doesn't go into the so-called prize because they're all basically annuities. I mean, I would never take that. I would try to get the cash, but the cash is a fraction of what the prize is. See, where does all that other money go? See, it's not going into the schools. Our property taxes have gone up every single year that I've owned the house. They haven't gone down. They've always gone up. They told us they were going to go down. Our kids, I had to buy my son's computers. I had to buy all that stuff. How come they weren't providing it like they said they were going to? See, um, it's kind of the same way with this Build Back Better plan. The same way with the so-called affordable health care. I mean, I want to see the disbursement. I mean, isn't it funny if if you are CEO of a business, you have to file a 10K report and file taxes every year, and the government gets to see. And if you're public, which means you have public stocks and everything else, you have to file. Everybody, anybody can look at your books and everything. I mean, everything is listed on there, even how many paper clips your company buys. It's not the same with the federal government. How come we can't see their books? You're paying for this. How come we can't see their 10K? Where's the inventory of the gold in Fort Knox? What's going on with these projects out in Area 51, really Area 53, and these other things? What's going on with that? How does carry cost $13.3 billion and still doesn't work? Has problems. How do you make a contract? I mean, how do you do this? Okay, how do you buy a car? You go to the dealership, you buy a car. Like, I like this car; it's great. You go to open the car, and you can't. The Yeah, there's a problem with the door mechanism, so you can't get in from the side. But we'll have a fix for it in like a month and a half. So we have to go around the other side, and you have to scurry across the seat and to brand new car. You'll see that a lot of government contracts and a lot of things are like this. I can tell you something that I know firsthand. With a new specific system that the Navy purchased, which is extremely sophisticated, the Department of Defense, in their infinite wisdom, did not want to spend the money to purchase the software. Yeah, to purchase the software. See what my dog is talking about. Is that incredible? Which means, and I know this for a fact, this means yes, there's other problems. Oh, you bet. Is it going to cost lives? Uh huh. But guess what? Um, they don't know what the problem is because the software that's running it is a top secret proprietary item that the original company won't give them access to. So they have these 20 aircrafts. They're going to get delivered. Oh, by the way, they're it's slated to go to get delivered more, of course, and they don't work. uh yeah, Wild Willie. Um, you know what? That's in the registration is different from state to state. For example, in Florida, they don't do state inspections, and I've seen some of the vehicles, and it terrifies me not to have state inspections. As a matter of fact, my truck that I've owned for 20 years, I'm getting it inspected on Monday. That's the person who was just calling, and they're confirming my appointment at 7:30 in the morning. Um, and what they'll do is they'll take the tires off and they'll check the brakes and they'll check make sure everything works and the lights and stuff like that, as well as the emissions. But on my car, there's no emissions. There's no emission standards because it's a 2002 diesel, which means there's no catalytic converter, there's no EGR, there's nothing like that. And what I've done to it is actually my 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 vehicle puts out less emissions than a brand new one. Yeah, because I modified it and I put a big turbo on it. Really, the right injectors that were supposed to be on it, and I take care of it. So, and I modified the tuning and stuff like that. So it just runs much better, cleaner. Yeah, I don't want people understand this. I don't want black smoke coming out of my tailpipe because that's money out of my pocket that's being wasted. Instead, I want that fuel to be consumed and burned cleanly in my engine that produces power. I don't believe in capital punishment for somebody who's presumed guilty. I I only want capital punishment for no offense or buts, not reasonable doubt. No offense or buts doubt. Okay, which means you were caught red-handed. Okay, like for example, the guy that was on the train here with those 245s and shot up all those people on the Long Island Railroad, and he was tackled to the ground by people. Okay, so him I have no problem with. A lot of others I do have a problem with because there could be an innocent person, could be, no matter how what the chances are, could be an innocent person, and they're being killed, and that's not right to me as a Christian. No. But as my father-in-law used to say, there are people that need killing only because they're just so evil and killed so many people to stop further innocents from being killed. He saw no other way to stop them than killing them. Um, yeah, I like I said, that's above my pay grade. Um, One time only. Yeah, I mean, my son has a military ID, so believe it or not, he only registered his car. It's a 2005 hybrid Escape. He registered it once in Florida when he went down there for his initial flight training. So I guess that was back in 2010, and he hasn't done an inspection or registration since. He has, of course, he brings it to the Ford dealer, and they've done stuff on it, but not really that much considering how many miles he has. He has like 230,000 miles on the thing. Um, yeah, he wants to just run it into the ground. So, well, maintaining what you own is the best way to get your money. I mean, I've always been. Everybody's like, "Oh, Bob, you're." I'm as green as they get. I mean, I have a sailboat. Okay, and that really came into. Did I want to burn 45 gallons an hour of diesel every weekend, every hour that I'm running that boat? I wouldn't be able to. There's no way I'd be able to afford. I mean, I put 75, 72, about 7,200 miles on that. Well, really 75, about 7,500 nautical miles on my boat. In the 10 years I was actively sailing her, maybe really hard, all the way up and down the East Coast, all the way down to Cape Hatteras, so all the way up to Bangor, Maine. Um, and every year, when I first got her, I spent maybe $25 a year on diesel fuel, to which that I still have her. I just haven't commissioned her since my stroke. But my last year, I think I spent $45 in fuel for the year, for the season. You're talking about a three-cylinder, 28 horsepower diesel that I use for everything from generating power to making hot water to whatever. It only burns at 1725, which it really loves. It loves that RPM for some reason. It's incredible how much that engine just it goes into that spot. Um, about a half a liter an hour, which is not really a lot. And at that speed, you're moving about. If it was just running the engine with no sails, it's about 5 6 knots. But if you most of the time we'd be sailing, we'd be running the engine, sail motoring essentially. because usually we would stay at a specific location for 3 to 4 days, and we had no solar. So thus, the only way to put and charge our batteries was with this big police alternator I put on the engine. And so we motor sail from one place to the next, basically just charging the batteries. And yeah, so and I have an 8D and a 4D, both AGMs. The huge batteries, both of them are truck batteries, and that basically ran our fridge and our freezer, um, and our lights and everything else for, like I said, through. I would use the 4D for the daytime, and the 8D would always be at night because our night loads were always bigger. And yeah, so but no water maker or anything. That was our biggest commodity. We'd always have to go to places and get like, if I could squeeze it, maybe a gallon of fuel just to bring in 110 gallons of fresh water. They would normally charge for fresh water if you weren't filling up fuel. I would always say I'm filling up, even though really almost fill. I don't think the needle ever got below quarter, 3/4 of a tank, and I'd always be putting stabilizer and stuff in there. So, um, yeah, I have no idea. I don't think so. I Last I saw Johnny was in San Andreas, and I think he had it with the whole thing. I mean, if you look at that walk that I showed of him and his wife walking to Marine One, that was the last time they were in DC that I know of, and they were done. I think that Trump's wife is done. She wants him to spend, and he has been. He's been playing golf with his son every single day. Um, he's been working with his son on different things. Um, I think that's really become his priority, as well. It should be. When you give birth to a person, it's your responsibility to either make a man or a woman out of them. That's your responsibility as a father. Yep. Jim Foreman, when he's not in his house that he's putting even a taller fence or wall on in Delaware. I mean, I feel, to be honest with you, I feel sorry for whoever that person is now. Um, I haven't seen a lot of the real Biden. I met in, not that I liked this when my son graduated. Biden was there, and he spoke very disparagingly and honestly about himself. He made fun of himself, and it was incredible, to where that they set up the stage and everything in the end zone at the Marine Stadium in Annapolis. And I taped the whole thing. His opening remark was, "Well, this is the only way I can get into the end zone," and it was funny. And he was very self-deprecating, and he talked about them, and he talked about us as parents, and he stood there and shook every single midshipman's hand and handed them their diploma, every single one, from the first one, the first 10, which my son was, to the last. And I admired that. I know that Obama didn't, and I know that, and to me that was, he didn't have to do it, but he did it, and he was very respectful. Um, and he went and shook our hands as parents. So the first top 10% of the parents got to be in the front row anyway. So we got to meet him, and you're respectful. He's still a vice president, so I was respectful. Yeah, doesn't mean I agree with it. But that didn't matter. You respect the office and you respect the person who's in it. Um, and he later on, my sister-in-law got, and she's a Democrat. She got the picture that she took of Bobby and Biden shaking hands. She got Biden to autograph it, which was nice. And yeah, but that person is not what I'm seeing on the TV. Um, no, whether it's the same physical person in the body or whatever, I have no idea what they can do today with everything. You know, obviously the puppet masters are, but this is not the same person. Okay, this is not the same. Um, it's not him. Even if it is him, the person is so full of dementia and drugs. It's not him. I mean, you have to realize that whoever this person is paying quite dearly for what these people are doing to him. Really dearly, because you can't just keep taking these drugs to make you sharp 1 minute, so called sharp 1 minute lucid, and then no, I mean, in real life, before all this, Senator Biden was um, wrong about everything, and he was a crook. Like 90% of the politicians in D.C. and associated with are crooks. Okay, in 1903, you had crooks take over this country, and really, that's only changed for a very short number of years to where that the crooks um, took care of the problem when they realized that the person was not on the same page. Do you think that they didn't think that JFK was going to be with them? They thought that JFK was going to be with them. And when they found out that he was not, which they should have realized this, okay? They should have realized that because of PT 109. But you see, they're stupid because, again, it goes back to the green eyed monster and everything else. It's stupidity. So what happened? They had to do it Charlie, Oscar, Utah, Paul. That's all they had to do. Fell right into, and then they covered it up. Just it's still papers are still classified, still not released. Um, on the GMA, your friend is correct. Okay, you know, but again, I put it to you that when Trump had the world stage, and I've published this letter on my Patreon page, a letter that as well as I don't know, 37 other scientists signed. Um, we weren't lying. We told them the number one threat to the world is the sun. After that, near Earth objects. After that, volcanoes. After that, plastics. Fukushima. You probably have nanoplastics right now in your blood. Huh? What? Yeah, well, you've been dealing with polymers and plastics, polyester, for 60 years. 60 years they've been going into your wash machine and they've been going out into the drain and going out into the ground. Yeah. Well, they're now showing up in the water supply, these plastics, and they're now showing up in the food supply, and they're now showing up in your blood. Now, these specific um, molecules manifest themselves as estrogen chemically to a lot of your cells in your body. And yes, they'll cause you cancer and everything else. But the big thing is that you don't think the powers that be who were making at the time Bakelite, that's what the plastic was then, who and I know for a fact that they came up with a cellulose corn um, substitute for the oil palm chain that was biodegradable over time. Okay, it would only last a certain amount of time, and there was a way to treat it to which that it would last as long as Bakelite. And if you've gone to museums, you've seen Bakelite in many things. Yes, it's very brittle, blah blah blah, but it always was brittle. But there are things you can do, and then you have carbon, graphene, graphite. Yeah, but there's always an agenda with these people because they want a new world order. Okay, what's the new world order? Charlie Paul is the new world order. Charlie Paul is controlled by these people. Charlie Paul and money that's controlled by these people. There's so-called reset, which makes everything you have worthless, and they can turn off your money, just like they turned off the so-called money to Russia, even though they really didn't, because it won't really change until July. I mean, you just the permutation of lies is just insane. I mean, and everybody does it. I don't believe so. Good faith, no, no way. The United States is not done. Way too many Christians here, and there's too many. If they think you have a fight in Ukraine, think about the kind of fight you'd have here. He's looking right at you, Max. Max is looking at the squirrel. Squirrel's looking at Max. It's just squirrel, and you don't like it. Um, and Smalls, okay? Yes and no. I used to know a lot of those scientists by name, and I used to know a lot of those people by name. And I would tell you right now, it's about less than 1% for what you think. But you see, that's enough. Because I'm going to tell you something. In the United States, you have maybe 1% of the population, if not less, that's causing 98% of all the problems, causing you and my problems. Um, yes, a long time ago, I took the Pfizer one. That was one that was recommended to me by my physician, and I'm fine. Uh, I do know about that, but I did not take the Bravo. I got the Oscar Mayer version, and I was sick for about 2 weeks, and I lost my sense of taste. It was really the worst thing was the sore throat. I mean, but I've had worse, to be honest with you. Um, Unfortunately, Rick, it's up to us to turn around and get as many people saved because if you read the scripture, it's going to be a while because a while of bad stuff has to happen first before those bowls are full that they get poured out. Yeah, on the Golf Mike Alpha, it actually started in 1903. But yes, that's when it was enacted. You're absolutely correct. But the plans, the dominoes, as it were, started falling back in 1903. That's when the, um, yeah. And, it's not like our founding fathers didn't want us. They did. Because I have a video where it even states that, where, that's how you take down any country. You take control of the currency. So it brought down the British Empire. So it brought down Napoleon. Um, Robin Lee, I'm very sorry about that, but you had to realize that there was definitely an agenda. Now, as I've said before, I explained why I had to um, get the vaccination, and I need Jim Foreman about it's 416. I need 84 users, but um, I had to go on base, and I had to help my son. So I prayed about it. And I can tell you, I know that um, God was going to protect me no matter what, because I would not have been able to do that trip. I know for a fact I was not able. I wasn't up to it physically. Was not there. And I know because I did things that I couldn't believe I did. I was like the Bob of old, and the only reason why I did them was because he was helping me, and I counted on that. I literally counted on that, and I gave it everything I had, and he picked up the slack. That's what God wants. God wants you to give it everything you got, with the confidence that He's going to pick up that slack. He's going to make it happen. He just wants you to do your best. Give it everything you got, and He will take care of the rest. And he does. He does, and He truly comes through. No question about it. And it was a tremendous epiphany because I hadn't done anything like that since my stroke. And my sons both looked at me after the stroke with, and that's not only not asking me for anything, but also questioning everything, just double checking everything, including him. My son was like, "Oh, I don't know if this is gonna work, whatever." I'm like, "We'll go to Tractor Supply. I had bought the wrong straps. They were rated for only um, 500 pounds instead of 5,000. I'm like, what's the big deal? We put, four on them. I said, fine. So will go to Harbor Freight and I'll buy what I need to buy. I did, and I bought 15,000 pound straps, which is I don't know. I think his vehicle weighs 5,800 pounds. So I put insane amount of stuff on that thing and strapped it down, and yeah, it didn't move even an inch, and it was fine. And I said I knew it, And I said I knew it could make it happen. And, but he was like this. He was going to call the whole thing off. I said, look, I'll take this around your neighborhood here. We'll drive around, whatever. And if that thing moves at all, I'll get. And it didn't. It didn't move. It didn't even move. I couldn't even discern a movement. Okay, and then going from Maryland all the way down to Pensacola, I think the thing moved maybe half an inch in the trailer. Okay, I mean if that, which is, so yeah, no, but it's I knew this, but you see, he's looking at me not like the dad of old. He's looking at me. Oh, you're a stroke victim, brain damaged, blah 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 blah. Okay, I don't forget Quebec, Peggy Dancer. I know, but there have been absolutely no information. Nothing has been posted since um, December 20th. No, nothing. Not a single post. Yeah, the other thing is on the GMA, they you notice that they wanted to bury all those reports. The CDC, the FDA wanted to bury all that stuff, and the judge ruled it has to come out. I mean, you have to start saying to yourself, why are they pushing this person who's been so easy on the P's, right? I mean, and nobody makes any. I mean, this one case, this person should be in jail for 10 years minimally, and this she let him off, and the person was out in 3 months, and they did it again, and that's not thrown up. The fact that this person did it again, okay, and I'm like, why isn't that thrown up? Why it wasn't that a factor? Why didn't anybody talk about that? Cruz tried to. They guys shut him down. So as far as what's going on in the Ukraine, um, like I said, on both sides, I as a father of a person who's serving now, and you know, I see those tanks that blow up and whatnot. I'm like that. Oh, that helicopter shot down or whatever. Although, that could be my son. I mean, I'm just saying. So I hate all aspects of war. It's such a waste. There's so many things that we need to hate or bring hate to, or that purpose of that hate than each other. Okay. That asteroid that's got a name on it, that coronal mass ejection that's got a name on it, that super volcano that will blow. I mean, you have to say to yourself about these great. They don't talk about anything. I mean, the whole island of Tonga blew up. I mean, it literally in less than a minute, there was debris of that island higher than 190,000 feet up in the upper stratosphere. More CO2 and sulfur dioxide was put out in literally, I don't know, 48 hours than we've done in 10 years. Why? How's that possible, Bob? Well, all the oil, all the calcium carbonate, all of it, that's on the bottom of the Pacific floor that's been subluxated and put down there. When one of these volcanoes go, all of that is being melted and diffused and put into the gas that comes up and out. Okay. all of it. And as of right now, it's one of 47 present erupting volcanoes, and there will be more. Okay, now the Yellowstone supervolcano, okay, is 1,000 Mount St. Helens. The caldera will be almost 40 miles, 40 miles wide. The magma pool is the size of Texas. What do you think will happen to the world when that goes off? Not if, when. But is it going to happen tomorrow? No. Is it going to happen in the next 25 years? I don't know. Maybe happen in the next 150. It's going to definitely happen. Okay. But is there ways to use our technology to prevent it from ever doing that again and harnessing it for power and materials? Answer: yes. Why are we doing it? That's craziness. How could you possibly let this thing go? How can you possibly not set up a satellite defense grid at L1 that in an instant will open up this umbrella and deflect an oncoming CME? How can you not do this when the entire world will be affected, to which that it'll put us all back to the 18th century, 1700s? I mean, people be raiding every single Cracker Barrel for their Lincoln wood stoves. How can you not? How can you not work together and say, so, this is enough. There's plenty of real estate. There's plenty of stuff. And just think, if we got the holy grail of tech, okay, what would be? Come on, you got photon computers, you got fission lifters, and then later fusion with the photon computer. You'll be able to figure out a safe way and a very effective way to do fusion, which means then you got the whole freaking ocean, and you got room temperature superconductivity. Okay, I mean, you wouldn't want for nothing. Okay, you'd have two classes of people. You'd have the people like my sons who want to do something with their lives, and you have the other people who want to sit and do nothing. They'll be able to do nothing, no problem, living virtual gaming or whatever the heck it is. And you'll have the other people who actually be going out there and doing things. But you see, Satan does not want human beings to succeed. He wants to hurt God as much as possible. This is the big lie. This is the big lie that all these lunatics believe. They believe this. Do they really believe it? I don't know if they really believe it down deep in their soul. I don't think they do. Because they walk around with such fear. You ever notice that? I mean, how afraid they are? The most corrupt tyrants and everything else are the most feared. The ones who are saved, who have the Holy Spirit within their hearts, you will see them stand and walk and not be afraid because they know. They know if God does not want them to be dead, oh, yeah, they're not going to tempt fate, but they do know. That's what they know. Any questions? Sounds like a new Earth room. No. Rick Riley. I mean, who's to say that the Holy Grail won't be delivered to us? I mean, to me, God gave me grace. I'm here again. So I'm here instructed to tell you about His grace and His love, but I'm also here to spread news about things that we can do. Number one, get saved. Make Jesus as your Lord and Savior. Say to somebody who wants to hit you over the head, tell them Jesus loves them. Say to them, say the power of Jesus. Please help this person. Stop them. It's very, very important. Very important. Um, that's the most important thing. The second thing is to understand that our Father in heaven wants us to be brothers and sisters. That the real enemy is everything else out there. And I'm not talking about aliens and all that crap. I'm talking about things that on the regular that want to defeat us, that make our life difficult, to which that together we can make it better. It's 2022 and we're still dealing with this oil crap. Still dealing with it because in 1957, Alan Weissman invented the lifter, the molten salt reactor. Let's talk about that a little bit before we go, so you know what you're talking about. Okay, so what is a lifter? It's a liquid fluor, fluoride thorium reactor. It's a breeder reactor. What does that mean? It means that you use two blankets of salt. One blanket of salt on the outside, both of them have fluoride. Now, the thing about fluoride and thorium and uranium is that thorium does not have a hexafluoride state, only uranium does. So, chemically, you can keep these things separated. The other thing is that if thorium is hit by a thermal nuclear reaction, okay, that's a slow neutron, okay, you do that with what's called a graphite moderator, slow the neutrons down. It it breaks itself up and it puts out, okay, when it does this, it becomes protactinium with this neutron. Takes 30 days for it to decay, and usually decays in uranium 233, sometimes uranium 232, but mostly uranium 233. When that fissions, it puts out two and a half neutrons. One neutron to go make more uranium, and the other one to cause more fissioning. That's what a breed reactor does. Okay, the whole thing is to keep these neutrons so that you keep them hitting other fissionable material, have them break that material up, and they put out more. You get what I'm saying? That produces tremendous of energy. And yes, you do have fissionable components, which means xeon, um, um, cesium, things like this. But unlike in a water reactor, um, the xeon and things like this, they just come right out because they're gas. The other noble gases come out because they're gas, and you can easily separate them. The cesium stays in with the fluoride salts. A lot of other types of um, fissionable byproducts stay in there, and you can further beta decay and consume them. Okay, to which that this reactor is 98% efficient. The other thing you should know about this reactor is it's totally safe because it doesn't work under pressure, and usually you have a drain tank so that if electricity goes out, something, whatever, the fan stops blowing that's keeping this freeze plug, and the entire thing drains out of the primary vessels into this drain tank. Now, the drain tank does not have the graphite moderator, so no fission will take place. The other thing you have to also understand is that a physics reaction is dynamic, which means the more load you put on the reactor, the more it increases. The less load, the less it's incredible. And that's the same kind of thing I've seen with the stepping stones that God has put in front for different types of technology, as well as now I see with the photon technology for us to take advantage of that. And because there it is, I mean, this whole thorium to uranium process and everything else it's perfect. It's just perfect. Now it's terrible at making bombs. Uranium 232 and 233 have tremendous gamma states. Fine in a reactor with ion salts. Ion salts are extremely stable, right? Sodium chloride, things like that. Very, very stable. And this is a fluoride salt, so it's very, very stable. You can hit it with anything and it's not going to do anything. Versus water reactors that, water is a covalent bond with hydrogen. So as soon as you hit them with a neutron, the hydrogen breaks off and goes to the top. You have to recombine it. And yeah, it's a big problem. Xeon is a as a heavy neutron absorber. All these things. Okay, very very problematic. Um, and how many things today that you use in your house go back to 1947? The so-called nuclear reactor, the pressure water vessels, the boil water vessels, reactors. That technology was really invented for Navy submarines. And as a propulsion for Navy submarines and ships, it's fine because of the scale. But when you scale up pressure vessels that's sitting at 70 atmospheres, you get into problems, very big problems, because water at 300 degrees Celsius is not water anymore. If you release that 70 atmospheres of pressure, it expands, that water expands as steam over 1,000 fold. And that's very bad. Versus molten salt, it's already melted. It's really not under any pressure. If anything's done like a partial vacuum, maybe half a pound to a pound. And it's extremely stable. Yeah. And yeah. And that's what we should be talking about. Why was that reactor, which burned hotter than any reactor ever for the size? It was only about the size of your refrigerator. And it was Nixon just took all of it and shelved it in 73 because he got a call from General Electric. And if it wasn't for a man by the name of Kirk Sorensen, who found all the records that were run at Oak Ridge, which only 40 people at the time have ever saw, he's the one who scanned them. He's the one who put them on CD. He's the one that got them around to universities. He's the one who got around to everything. He's the one who published them on a website, which, by the way, the Chinese then were taking like crazy. And then what happened? 2012, Obama put the kibosh on it. 2016, 2017, Trump gives it the green light with the Department of Energy, gives Flybe Energy the green light. First thing, they do all the testing, they do all this stuff. They're writing up these new regulations because they want to keep it safe. It's a whole new type of technology. and as typical, caught up in red tape because a lot of people don't want it. 98% of it. We don't want it. Biden gets in there. First thing he does, boom, cancels it. I thought he wants green stuff. Why would he cancel this? Why? He doesn't want. The only green stuff this guy or these puppets want is this. I can't get to him, Elon Musk. Uh, I don't know him. Okay. If I did know him, I wouldn't be talking about that to him. I'd be talking about the sun and him putting something in orbit that produces cheaply these satellites that will just they're basically mylar umbrellas that open up that become one big huge conductor that can deflect an oncoming CMA, and that's electronic. That's really the deflection is an inducement from the movement of all those particles and the field that they're generating in a conductor. They will induce the opposite charge. Okay, so the specific inertia of those satellites, and yeah, it might destroy all of them. Who knows? But so what? I mean, build more, send them out there again. But the point is that that CME would be reduced by 75, 80% easy. Wow, right? Wow, much better than being put into the Stone Age, or 1700s. Yeah. So I would love to get Peggy if you know his phone number. Yeah. So that's not my expertise. That's only that's other people that were in my group. This one guy, he worked for NASA for 37 years, 38 years, 40, no, 41 years. Wow. Yeah. 41 years. Okay. He knows all this stuff. And he talked to deaf ears. I know light, I know computers, I know what I know. Um I I don't know the details of that. I know the concept of it. I understand the concept of it. I understand how um, you know, induction works. I understand how forces work and things like this, but I don't know the physics of, those times sadly no. I know the concept. Now, do I know the photon processing? Oh yeah, I know everything about it. And I've on my Patreon site I've have equations of how the light's going to get pumped, how it manifests itself through the crystals, how the harmonics are dealt with. Yeah, all these things. This is something I've been studying for I don't know 30 no, geez. I built my first Mason when I was 8. So yeah, long time. Long time. Yeah. Wow. 45 years. I should know something about it by now, right? And then I worked specifically in the field for 7 years, working with some really incredible stuff. Yeah. So, yeah, I know a little bit about it. um, Peggy the answer, I don't know. I know at least he's trying to do something creative with his money. He's not just sitting on it like the Rothschilds are. At least he's doing something with it. Um, you know. Oh yeah, well, term limits definitely. I mean, 2 term limits for every single office. Period. Every office, 2 term limits. Every single office. I don't care. I don't care if you're working for the government and you're elected, or even if you're working for the government, just two, you know, whatever term it's going to be. Because you know what, those people, no, that's the real power. The real power is the people not elected that work for the government because they get to make and really shape policies and things, and you don't even know who they are. I got less than 3 minutes. We had a good show today. You guys have any high yield? If you're talking about the laser system, it's extremely. Um, it could be very high yield. But the thing is that you really don't want to use that much power because you want to keep the heat down to a bare minimum. Because all you're really looking to do is convey um, the information. So and you just want the light to do the math for you, the color subtraction, color addition. Yeah, that's all you want. You don't want anything magical. You don't want to be burning anything. So you really want to keep the heat down to it. Nah, I've never met him, and I'm pretty good when it comes to meeting people. I would obviously, if I was going to meet him, I'd meet him with my wife. Certainly has to have much better uh, body hygiene than Steve Jobs did. But yeah, no, he saw a niche for a market. He saw a niche for publicity, and he took it. I mean, why not? I mean, if there's money in it, the government was offering money as a bonus for every electric car that was produced. I mean, why not take that advantage? That's huge. It had to be in his calculations. He didn't get where he is overnight. He got there from making good decisions, business wise. So, yeah, Jim Foreman. Yeah, the biolabs. Guess what? In every native country, all over the world. Yeah, and some not. Again, these criminals, they want what's on the Georgia Guidestones, right? They know they can't kind of do it here. They can't do it here. Now, some of these labs might be for legitimate, studying of smallpox and other types of things like that. No question. Every country has to have something like that to produce different types of antidotes and whatnot, and research things and professors. But if you think that Soviet Union is going in there just for that, that's what X-22 says. That's totally bogus. Anyway, I want you guys to have a great weekend. Max is going to say, "Hi, Max. Come on up here, say hi to everybody." Woo! Woo! Are you watching? See, he's watching a squirrel. Squirrel is just too distracting to Max. He's got to. Anyway, you God bless. Be good and love each other. And remember, take Jesus into your heart. He died for you on the cross of Calvary, his blood shed. And remember, study John, Matthew first. Get with a good Bible-based church, and you'll be thankful for it.